Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Crime Weekly News. I'm Derek Lavasser.
And I'm Stephanie Harlow.
And we're going to talk to you tonight. It's Crime Weekly News, but it's also going to be more of a case update. We covered the Delphi case in the past. Some people have asked us about it. There's been some recent developments, which we're going to dive into. We're going to give you all the details on it, give you our opinion on it. So that's kind of what tonight's going to consist of. But before we get into that little summary, I just wanted to let everyone know that last week we talked about criminal coffee, K-Cups. They're out. They're available. If you're following us on social media or if you're subscribed to the newsletter for Criminal Coffee, then you already know this. But if not, they are officially out. There is a limited supply. I think we have enough. Don't quote me on how long they're going to last. So if you're interested in trying them, now is the time to do so.
Get them while they're hot, kids.
Yeah, is there anything you wanted to add to that? I've been posting some stuff on social. Everyone's kind of aware of it.
You know what I like about our K-Cups? So I was never a big Keurig drinker because I felt like K-Cups kind of tasted sort of stale and like not fresh, but our K-Cups taste really fresh. So, and I've heard that from so many people. Even my mother-in-law, not my mother-in-law, my stepmother. Yeah, my stepmother on Father's Day, she's had my coffee before, but she's had criminal. It's your coffee too. Sorry. She's had criminal.
It's us.
She's had criminal coffee before, but then I made it in a K-Cup, for her. And she was like, "This is your coffee in a K-Cup?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "This tastes better than any K-Cup I've ever had." So that's always nice to hear. And people just seem to really like the flavor and how fresh and like delicious they taste. So I'm really proud of that. And I know you probably are too.
Yeah, we didn't want to sacrifice quality for it. It's not a quantity thing. So that the part of that is because we roast and grind the coffee and we immediately ship it off, and we have to wait for that process before we pack it, because as soon as we get it, we send it off, and it's nitrogen sealed into each K-Cup, and that's why it's still fresh when you get it. So I'm glad that your stepmom acknowledge that. That's great. So okay,
she's into it, man.
We won't take any more time on the plug. We just wanted to let you know, because before we know, they'll be sold out and people will be yelling at us. So the reason why you're all here today, it was recently announced that Allen County Judge Francis Siegel released 118 court documents Wednesday afternoon in connection to the Delphi case. Pretty fascinating stuff. I tweeted about it, but if you haven't heard about it yet.
Did you tweet about it?
I did.
You tweeted about it?
I did. I tweeted about it because I was upset with the angle that they're going to go with in this, but I don't want to steal your thunder. So for anybody who doesn't know about the case yet.
Wait, the angle that his defense team is going?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Give them the details and then we can talk about it.
Well, I mean, I don't have much details about that, like in my script, but we can talk about it because I did look into it a little bit. But
yeah.
Basically, remember that the suspect in this case, in the killing of Abby and Libby from 2017, he was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder on October 28th, 2022. And his name's Richard Allen. He's lived in Delphi since at least 2006. He's lived in Indiana his whole life. He's just a regular dude. He's got a wife named Kathy. They have an older daughter together. He's a trained pharmacy technician. At the time of his arrest, he was actually working at the local CVS store. And Libby's grandparents, Mike and Becky, remember that he had processed photos for them before. So it's just absolutely ludicrous. And then I saw this picture of Richard Allen. He was like in a restaurant or something, and his wife must have taken the picture. And it's just crazy because he's sitting there and the poster of Bridge Guy is on the wall behind him. And he's just sitting there smiling at the camera. And to me, that was one of the most eerie pictures I've ever seen. It was very like, what kind of person can do that? What kind of person can do that and then like continue on and live their lives? Now, I'm pretty sure he's guilty of this, all right, but he has pleaded not guilty to all charges, which is weird, even though the thing that's kind of connecting him, there's a lot of things connecting him, but specifically, there was an unspent round found at the crime scene close to Abby and Libby's bodies. And this unspent round, has been tied to a gun called a Sig Sauer Model P226, which did belong to Allen. And they even say in that video where they hear the man saying "down the hill," you can hear the round cycling through the gun, which is strange because it doesn't appear, at least to what we know, that he used this gun, because it was something that was revealed in these new documents has shown that law enforcement believes a knife was used on Abby and Libby, or something like a knife, because an autopsy revealed that they had been killed by a sharp object. So, in my opinion, it's likely he used the gun to scare them and get them to go with him, but didn't want to shoot it and make a noise. So he used a sharp object instead.
I thought someone said gun. Wasn't like the word gun used? I could be wrong on that. But
Where?
I thought like in the more of the footage or audio that they released, the word gun was mentioned by either, I don't know if it was by Abby or Libby or by the suspect, but I thought, I could be wrong. Maybe it was just the cocking of the gun. That could be it.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but
Could be wrong.
definitely, there was definitely an unspent round there, and it matched his gun. And also, when he was initially interviewed, he admitted to having been by the Monon High Bridge. He even admitted to having been on the bridge on 2 separate occasions that afternoon that Abby and Libby were there, which I believe was February 14th, 2017. And he said he was like watching the fish or something, but he definitely was there. He put himself there. The round to the gun that he owns was there. He lives, I think, just like 2 or 3 miles away from the Monon High Bridge. Basically he looks very much like a bridge guy. He's kind of he said he was wearing the same thing, like he had a Carhartt jacket on and jeans, pretty much all of the same things that bridge guy was wearing. But he's still saying he's not guilty. But these new documents revealed that he's confessed to the 2017 killings of Abby and Libby multiple times since being incarcerated. And it was kind of revealed.
How many times?
Multiple.
Do you know how many?
Yeah. So at first, when they told us that he had confessed, like we sort of heard that before these documents came out, and it was very vague. Like, well, who did he confess to? Was it like an inmate? Because then is this like a prison inmate confession? Somebody's just trying to get like, a transfer or some time shaved off of their sentence, because you never really trust those. But it turns out that, at least according to Carroll County prosecutor Nick McClelland, apparently Allen confessed 5 or 6 times in multiple confessions to multiple people. And one of those people was his wife, Kathy, because apparently this dude can use like an iPad while he's in prison, and he can be like sending messages and making calls and stuff. It's just super odd. We'll talk about that in a second. But he confessed multiple times to killing Abby and Libby. And then when he did, his wife, Kathy, hung up the phone immediately. But reportedly, Richard Allen also confessed the same thing to his mother. So, and these are on recorded phone calls. So you're pretty much screwed, dude. And I think, like you said, his defense team is going to try to say, oh, this is because he's being treated so terribly in prison. Like they said, it's like he might as well be like a prisoner of war at this point. He's being treated so terribly. And they had another inmate write a letter saying he was being treated terribly and being tortured by like the guards and stuff, which like, if that's true, who cares? But
oh my God.
But I'm serious. I don't care if bridge guy's being tortured, or beat up a little bit by the guards. But they also did this thing where they kept showing him in like the same dirty shirt when he went out in the yard, and the prosecution was like, he's got plenty of clean shirts in his cell. He just keeps choosing to wear that shirt when he goes out into the yard. And the defense happened to like make sure they took a picture of him wearing that dirty shirt, even though he has several clean articles of clothing in his cell. So try again.
Yeah. I have so many thoughts on this case. First off, to go back to the ballistics, there was conversations that were happening where the defense was going to try to get the ballistics thrown out, because it's not just, and I think that's more important as far as, well, now with these confessions, they may be more important, but yes, it's a .40 caliber round, which is similar to the gun that he owned, which is not similar. It's the exact round of the caliber gun that he owned, right? So that's one. But you could say, well, there's a million .40 caliber guns out there, so that don't really mean much. And we had talked about it before. I know we talked about ballistics before when this came up, but essentially they can take that unspent round, they can look at it under a magnifying glass, because it was clearly, or they believe it was ejected from the firearm in question.
Yes.
So when it's ejected from that firearm, it's actually called an extraction claw, kind of. It pulls the round out of the gun and throws it onto the ground, or into the air and onto the ground. And you can't really see it with the human eye, but under a microscope, it leaves scratches, like striations on the casing itself. So then what you would do is, if you have a gun that you think could be the same gun, you get that gun, you go into a controlled environment, into a lab, and you put a round in the magazine, you load it up just like the suspect would have done, and you eject a round by racking. If you're watching on YouTube, you rack the gun and the round will extract from the gun. It'll get pulled out the same way it would have at the crime scene. And then you can take that new unspent round from the lab, put it under the same microscope next to the round from the crime scene, and see if the scratches, striations match up, if they're similar. And it's not as good as a fingerprint, but you would expect to see a similar striation on that gun to the gun in question if it's the same gun. And to even strengthen their argument, what they could then do is take other Sig Sauer guns and do the same test with them to see if they can replicate the same scratches, which if they could, it would hurt their case. But if they're completely different, it would help their case, suggesting even more that the gun owned by Mr. Allen was in fact the gun used in the crime. So that's the ballistics.
Yeah.
As you were saying, the defense, which is a common thing, they're going to say mental state. Well, I would make the argument that if he was under this duress where he just wanted to get out of there and be put into a regular prison because he was so sick of the conditions he was currently in, and whatever the case may be, he just wanted to get it over with, he would call a guard, say, get the detectives down here, I want to confess. In my opinion, I believe that at some points, I hate to compare prison, I'm not, to Big Brother, but you do forget when you're playing Big Brother. For anyone who didn't know, I played Big Brother. When you're in there, you see all these cameras. There's 100 of them. But after about a week, you completely lose sight of these cameras. It's like they don't even exist anymore. You totally forget that they're there. And that's why a lot of people on Big Brother who aren't familiar with it, they go in there the first week and they're loved by everyone. And then about a week or two and they start talking like they really do in the outside world, and they get crushed because they're not always good people. And I think that's what we kind of have happening here, where he's been in prison for a while now. He's starting to get comfortable. He's talking on his phone. He's talking on his iPad, and he has this momentary lapse in judgment where he says something that he shouldn't say, not remembering that everything he's doing is being recorded. That he's clearly an idiot, and that's probably what happened here. So they're going to go with the whole he's not mentally capable of confessing at this point because of his condition. But I think if he was really doing it to get attention, he would say it to investigators, not to his friend or family member who he may be under the impression that conversation is just between the two of them.
Well, check this out. This is the interesting thing. This freaking guy. It says within that unit, prosecutors alleged his cell was equipped with a video recorder to record his activities. Court documents described Allen as quiet, saying he read a lot of books, did crossword puzzles, and exercised daily. During that time, court documents released Wednesday say Allen was allowed to use a tablet in his cell to send text messages, make phone calls, and listen to music. Why are they given this? This is crazy to me.
Sounds like terrible conditions, by the way.
This is Guantanamo Bay, dude.
Yeah, there's kids in our communities that don't have iPads, can't do that. But
listen to music. What the hell? Make phone calls and send text messages. What is going on? So Allen allegedly made the April 3rd call to his wife. This is when he confessed, allegedly confessing to the murders. Court documents allege he confessed no less than 5 times to the killings. Shortly after, prosecutors say Allen's attorneys moved to transfer their client out of the Westville Correctional Facility. Investigators say Allen's behavior changed after the phone call and he lost weight. His attorneys felt his mental state had declined so badly that he would not be able to assist in his own defense.
Yeah, he was stressed out because he realized he fucked up.
He definitely did lose weight. Exactly.
Yeah.
He's definitely
like, shit. I screwed up. Now I can't take that back. He probably got off the call and was like,
when you're stressed and you're
like, I'm doomed.
He can't eat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Court documents allege he began wetting down paperwork he had gotten from his attorney and eating it, which I guess is not going to help you assist in your own defense, my dude.
Yeah, no, he's going with the insanity plea at this point.
The documents also show Allen allegedly went from making up to 2 phone calls a day as of April 3rd, 2023, to not making any phone calls at all because, once again, he's stressed and he's like, I cannot risk saying something else stupid.
Yeah, he screwed up.
Investigators also said that after that day, Allen was refusing to eat and would go days on end refusing to sleep. To date, Richard M. Allen still has not made a phone call since April 3rd, 2023, the documents read. The documents show that Allen broke the tablet he'd been using for text messages and phone calls.
Yeah, he thought
he can't even trust himself. He's like, I got to break this bitch.
No, I think he probably broke it because he felt like, oh, they haven't transferred my correspondence off of this yet, not realizing it's in the iCloud.
Adorable.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, if
Richard
I break
Allen.
it, like whatever's inside of this thing. Have you ever seen Zoolander?
Yes,
where
the computer where they're
the
like,
computer,
how do you get in? And then they're like,
the files are
banging on
inside
it.
the computer.
Owen Wilson and
Yeah. So he breaks the computer
like
thing. And he got,
caveman. They're like,
yeah,
I just like said something about that scene like
great
literally 2
movie.
days ago. That's so it's one
Yep.
of my
He
favorite
he
movies.
thought it was stored inside the iPad. Like, oh, if I break this, they can't get my text messages out. No, dude, they
like,
get transferred instantaneously. You fucking genius.
I bet you didn't know I was a good you Googleizer.
Yeah, you Googleizer. Yeah. Oh my God.
So this dude broke the tablet. According to the documents released Wednesday, in mid-April, 2 psychiatrists and a psychologist examined Allen to see if he needed to be involuntarily medicated. The panel also discussed whether Allen needed to be moved to a facility with a psychiatric unit. Those doctors determined Allen didn't need medication and he didn't need to be moved because he's just fine. All right? I mean, he ain't right. But he's fine. After that
Yeah.
examination, court documents show Allen went back to how he was acting before that April 3rd phone call with his wife. He began eating and sleeping again because he got hungry and tired. Okay. Allen's defense
Man's got to eat.
Yeah, a dude's got to eat and sleep when there's not much else to do because you broke your iPad.
Dummy.
So his defense teams argued any confessions were due to his poor mental state sustained in conditions they compared to ones endured by prisoners of war while incarcerated. In another document from June, Allen's defense team objects to a release of his mental health records while in prison. Just so dumb. So dumb. Like, oh, he confessed. How do we fix this? Well, we've got to say, like, you don't confess to something to get out of prison, by the way. If you, like, hate your circumstances, is what you do say, like, oh, let me confess to this then? Because then I'll never leave? What's the motive?
The motive is, I think, where he is now, and I could be wrong, I think where he is now is not the place he would be if he's found guilty. He would put into he'd be put somewhere else. I think I know here there's a difference where you're in a intake facility, a holding facility, and then you go to the main prison if you're found guilty, your maximum security, whatever he ends up in, right? So I think the argument could be made like he's done being held in like this temporary place where it doesn't have all the amenities that would have in the main the actual prison where he's going to be there for a long duration. That's what it's intended for. And so the argument could be made for that, but I just think it's complete bullshit. I just don't think that's the case.
It is, yeah.
I think the behavior after the phone call, after the iPad transmission is indicative of someone who realized they screwed up. They realized they screwed up and now they're almost pouting about it because they're like, oh, I screwed up. So now I have to try to create an excuse as to why I said those things because I can't go back and erase them.
Do you think he didn't know he was being recorded?
No, I think what happened is exactly what I was saying. I think there's moments where you and I talk every week on camera, there are many points, I won't speak for you, where I forget that we're recording this for hundreds of thousands of people. I feel like it's just you and I having a conversation because you become desensitized to it. So if you're sending messages or you're on a phone call in that moment when you're just talking openly, you can forget that like you're in a prison and everything you say right now is being recorded. So I feel like there's a momentary lapse in judgment even for the smartest person in the world. But if you have someone who clearly is not completely all there if they're going to do something like this to two young little girls, allegedly. So I think he slipped up. I think he slipped up multiple times. And overall, for me...
So let me ask you this then. If he slipped up, do you think he's told his wife this before?
It depends on... I haven't heard the conversation. So, like, if he said it as in a context of, like...
Right, I would like to know the context, but, like, she then hung up. Like,
well, I mean, she probably knew, like, what he said is not good.
Well, to stop him from saying it, right? Yeah,
I mean, he could...
Has she known?
I mean, I would hope that she didn't. But if he's saying it in the sense of like, it's like, what did I tell you? I told you this was going to happen this way, where they were going to find that thing. We should have gotten rid of it when we had the chance. Something like that. That's different. Or it could be just him saying, listen, I did it. I just want to get out of it. I just want to move on with my life. And you move on with your life. And that might just be him just spitting it out for the first time. But
it's really, because she's been both his wife and his mother have been like, I think, pretty supportive of him.
I'm sure. So,
but like the proof's in the pudding. You know what I mean? Like, how could this is a really weird time to stand by your man. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Weird.
It's not the strongest case I've ever seen. I'll be fair about it.
It's not the weakest.
It's not the weakest either. And it's getting stronger with things like this, because I do think it's admissible. I do think it's valid. I think these confessions are something that will be used in court.
For sure.
And you have that in conjunction with everything else that you laid out earlier. The area in which he was, the clothing, the description of the person. It looks like him, the voice sounds like him. The fact that he happens to not only look and sound like the suspect, but also own a caliber firearm that's the same, that matches the unspent round found at the crime scene. I don't know if the ballistics has been done yet. I'm assuming if it hasn't, it's going to be, but based on the arrest warrant, it probably already has been done.
Yes, they have.
So they've already done the matching of the bullet, and someone who specializes, not the detectives, someone who specializes at the crime lab in ballistics has said, I'm assuming in a report, that the striations on the unspent round from the crime scene match the striations on the unspent round from their controlled environment from the firearm seized from Mr. Allen's home. That is pretty compelling.
Yeah.
That is pretty compelling. Now you add on to it confessing 5 times to people that he trusts. Not good. Not good. I think he's responsible for it. I think he will ultimately be found guilty for it unless the defense is successful in getting the ballistics thrown out. If they get the ballistics thrown out, I think this case is in trouble, because that's the strongest thing they have.
I mean, I'm over here like, my opinion, 100% he did this. 100%.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing, right? If they hypothetically, and I'm hoping this doesn't happen, I don't think it will. If there's some way that the defense gets the ballistics all thrown out, fruit of a poisonous tree doctrine, some way it was seized, which I don't know why. The bullet was found in a public area.
Yeah.
So there was no legal search and seizure.
By the bodies of these 2 child victims.
Right. So they would have to go after the gun seizure, right? The seizure of the firearm from his home. How was that unlawful? If they could do that, then they could say any evidence obtained from that gun was the result of an illegal search and seizure. So it has happened before. So I hope that it's not the case. The evidence is what it is. If this goes to trial and that all stays in conjunction with this confession, yeah, I think he did it, and I think he's going to be right where he needs to be. Well, is a death penalty in Indiana? I can't remember. We talked about this before.
Probably, but
yeah. Either way,
feel like, and honestly, it does look like from these documents, it looks like there was some sexual assault. Because Abby and Libby's clothes were found separate from their bodies, and there are still some articles of clothing missing. I think they said a pair of underwear and a couple socks.
Yeah, no good. And and I think it's a good point.
So I really do actually hope he's being abused in prison.
Well, here's the argument. I'll just give you the other side of it. I'm with you. A lot of people would say innocent until proven guilty. There's going to be plenty of time for those things. I can tell you.
I'm glad they will say that. Good for you guys. You're really good people.
If he's found guilty and he's a child abuser, a sexual, child molester, and things like that, we all know. We've talked about it here before. In prison, there's a code. That's all I'll say. But that being the case, I do want to remind everyone. I think everyone's an adult here. We all know, but I have seen some tweets from Kelsey, including just think of the family here. Think of Kelsey. Think of her family. Think of them. They're going through this day by day, and a lot of this they may be getting revealed to them maybe only hours before it goes public. So think of them, because all this information relaying to you, that's their sister or their daughter, their granddaughter. So thinking of them always in this case, and we're hoping that they get the justice they deserve, because a lot of families that we've covered on this show are not even in this position where they might get some type of answer about what happened to their loved one. So we'll see how it plays out. I don't think it's going to be enough for us to do a full episode on, unless Stephanie says otherwise. She's the boss when it comes to that stuff.
I mean, there's like a lot. I mean, I haven't even gone.
There we go.
I just haven't even gone through the newly released. There's like 117 pages or something.
So maybe we do it when it's all said and done. When it goes through trial, we do a whole complete episode.
Yeah, I think that he's definitely going to be going to trial, and then you're going to see so much more come out, because I mean, maybe cell phone pings and things like that, who knows?
We'll see. We'll cover it. If it comes out,
I would like to know, like, what is his, like, because the weird thing is he doesn't even have an alibi, right? His alibi is he was there where the crime happened. That's his alibi.
Yeah, he was interviewed. He can't even deny it.
He don't even have an alibi.
Yeah, no.
So
that's the other thing. I didn't mention that. He was there.
He was there.
Yeah.
On the bridge. He said he was on the bridge.
Yeah.
He needs to just give up. Honestly.
He did. He confessed.
Yeah, but he's still pleading not guilty. He's like, I only confessed because I'm so
sick.
tired and so hungry.
My t-shirt smells. Get out of here,
My
buddy.
t-shirt's dirty. Yo, he lost some weight though. He looking trim.
If you're about to go down for double homicide, that would cause you to lose some weight.
I wonder how many calories like all of those documents that he like wet and ate have. Like, do you think
Probably not a lot.
That'd be sit hard in your stomach, man.
Calorie deficit. That's the way to go.
Calorie
all right,
deficit.
we're off the rails.
Yeah.
Here we go. Listen, we appreciate
Hey, we
you guys
should do a podcast called Off the Rails.
Probably exists. We appreciate you being here. Crime Weekly News. We're wrapping it up. I'm just going to keep talking, even though she's still talking about something in the background right now.
Off the tracks?
Yeah, off the tracks. Perfect. Start working on it. Copyright that bad boy. Trademark it.
Off the rails better, though.
Off the rails is better. We appreciate you joining us here on Crime Weekly News. Everyone stay safe out there. We will see you on Friday for audio and on video on Sunday for YouTube. So be safe. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye.